Out at the gate, a match flared into a brief private sunrise. The scarred man cupped it against the wind, watched the flame bite the cigarette, and then let the light go. Smoke lifted, thin and certain. He leaned on the green metal, tapping ash with the respectful patience of a man who had waited outside many doors and learned that every building had a moment when it would tell you what it truly was. He did not knock. He did not announce. He watched. The rain did not bother him. His jacket had been waxed for this life. His face had learned a calm that made knives nervous. When his phone trembled in his pocket, he let it speak a single vibration and quiet. Instructions were a formality at this point. Inside, Mama Ruth folded pamphlets with the care of a lifetime volunteer whose hands had fed more people than most budgets. She hummed an old song under her breath that made the fluorescent lights feel kinder. When she found Amara and the others in the project room, she said nothing at first. She always listened to a room before she listened to its people. Then she put her palm on Amara's shoulder and said, "Every good house faces a strong wind. If the walls shake, it is not to shame them. It is to prove what they're made of." Kay rolled her eyes at the ceiling and whispered, "Even her metaphors have ancestors." But the quip was a respect wrapped in mischief, and Mama Ruth accepted it as the compliment it was. "Something's wrong," Amara said. "Not wrong like a math error. Wrong like a promise that never meant to keep itself." Mama Ruth's mouth tightened at the edges, the lines around her eyes laying down a map. "Truth is a stubborn visitor," she said. "If it is at your door, it will enter, even if you pretend you didn't hear the knock." Taye glanced at the window, at the rain, at the gate he could not see from here, and felt a shape in the night that looked like a knock dressed as silence. Chief Adigun preferred to arrive after thunder. He said the air felt cleaner then. He came with two men who arranged themselves like punctuation at his shoulders, commas between his words. He wore generosity like fragrance, which is to say he wore it for how it made the room feel. He shook Chike's hand with that grip that suggested partnership while measuring debt. "The gala," he said, "is less than 3 weeks. The footage from the borehole village. We will need a longer cut. Emotion. Children running in clean water." You understand, Chike thought of the ledger and of his daughter's voice, which did not shout, and somehow because of that, sounded louder than any rally. "We'll give you what we have," he said. "We will not invent what we don't." Adigun's smile didn't change. His eyes did. "Director," he said softly, "impact is a story well told. Numbers tell their own stories if you stand quietly and let them." By midnight, the rain thinned to a fine script across the glass. Amara had mapped 4 identical payments to Hidalgo procurement and 3 to a consultancy that seemed to employ no one but invoices. The dates pressed one another like hands in a frightened hallway. Taye pulled staff attendance logs and found that training sessions billed for caterers had happened on days when the hall was double booked for a politician's photo op. "They are writing in our name," he said, not angry, just tired. "And the pen does not know we are not the author." Chike stood in the doorway. He had the look of a man who had already walked the argument alone and arrived at a cliff. He glanced at Amara's notes and then at her face. His daughter, the kind of person who turns back only to help the ones behind her. "You should go home," he said. It sounded like love. It also sounded like defense. "We should choose together," she replied. He looked down. I have already chosen too much by myself." As if on cue, the power tripped and came back wearing a weaker yellow. Somewhere, a door closed, not one of theirs. The scarred man entered the compound like a shadow that had remembered it had feet. He nodded once at the guard, who nodded back in the unspoken language that lives between quiet men who have made peace with certain jobs. In the corridor, he paused to read the building the way a hunter reads a field. Voices on the left, low, determined. One older, two younger, one with laughter even when it was not funny. He stepped closer until the hall's light dressed him in a little honesty. The scar along his cheek caught it and returned it without apology. The first sign was small, a tightening in the air, a sense that the walls were listening. Taye felt it the way some people feel rain before it falls. He moved to the door, opened it to the corridor, and looked out. They were 6 men.
Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stay inspired, stay rooted, and keep the faith alive.